Okay, once more recording our second session for tonight with our question 4. Ouch, that's loud. Let's see if I can get that down a bit. I think, all right, welcome back people. So I'm just checking the mic settings to try and reduce that volume there. Microphone. Right. Speaker. Audio options. Test. Right, so I want to reduce this mic a bit. Okay. And now getting back to where we were, which was sharing my screen. And then checking my participants, make sure everybody's okay. Right, so back to business. So we were saying, having gotten the first cash outflow out of the way, we could then sort of line up all of the other payments, repayments, we could say, or yeah, I guess we could call it repayments. To debt holders or debt providers. All right, so their total repayments of the 3 tranches A, B, and C should be lower than 21.8 million. If we cannot pay it, then we're going to be in trouble. Then the system won't work. So let's begin. Payment to debt providers, tranche A. Yes, chat. There we go. Yeah, repayments or payable to the debt providers. Yeah, that either or description would work because remember everything here is budgeted. Nothing taking place in actual cash flow yet. So tranche A, as we are paying them out, tranche A up here, LIBOR plus 1.5, but are we going to put that? Were we given a value for LIBOR? The payout LIBOR plus 1.5. The 150 is an addition to the LIBOR, so it's LIBOR plus the 150 basis points, Anita. So we need to know what the LIBOR is in order to punch that in now as an amount of payment. Are we given what the LIBOR is so that we could add the 150 to that? Sissy is saying 9.5. Anita is also throwing 9.5 at us. Where did you ladies get that 9.5 from? A-rated floating rate, second paragraph, so down here. Same one we highlighted with the annual cost. Now, let's read that carefully. She acknowledges that there would be interest rate risks associated with the proposal. So because of that acknowledgement, we're now going to say that she further proposes a what? Fixed for the variable interest rate swap. So while our A-rated loan involves a LIBOR, that LIBOR is what? Fixed or floating? This LIBOR is, what is this LIBOR going to be? Fixed or floating? Come on, we did enough interest rate hedging to know what this is going to be. Excellent, this is floating. So it's going to float at whatever LIBOR is. So we weren't told what LIBOR is, but now we are being told in her proposal that she is taking a swap to exchange the floating or the variable that we have, we're going to exchange it for fixed, right? So it's a swap on the A-rated floating rates that is going to change the LIBOR for 9.5. Good. So this change to the 9.5. What is 9.5 that we have to use for LIBOR? It's not because that's the value of LIBOR. We are only using that 9.5 because it is being replaced. LIBOR is being replaced by this 9.5 fixed rate payment. Right? Is everybody okay with that? So make sure you clear up that. I could throw that in to the notation. Right? So let's come down here. And I'll just put the note right here. Tranche A. Note. We are applying the rate of the swap of 9.5% for the LIBOR. Hence, our tranche A will be repaid at, will it be the exact 9.5%, or are we going to add the LIBOR to that? What do we think? Right, we will have to add the basis points, correct. So at the 9.5% plus the 150 basis points, and if we convert that into percentage, how much is 150 basis points again? 1.5, very good. 1.5%. That is the LIBOR plus 1.5%. That was agreed to, right? That was agreed. Which will give us 9.5 plus 1.5. Come on, that's mental. Make sure we get it right. 11%. Very good. So tranche is at 11%. And so now we could go with all values. So therefore, starting mark with what we mentioned, we're taking the 200,000, we're finding the 90% of that. And of that, we are finding 60% of that is going to give us the amount of dollars. And what else can we do? Can we put in the 11% one time? 11% return, right? So again, the 90% of the investment %, of which is raised by tranche A at a return of 11%. So what's that amount of return? I could probably cut this down here and get more space. Dollars, millions. 11.88. Yep. Good. Next tranche. Tranche B. So again, similar computation. 90% of the investment, 15% of which goes to tranche B. Do we have the return on tranche B? %, straight off from the case. So once we organize ourselves, only tranche A was a little bit converting there. Everything else is 12%, 13%, and then the balance. So let's go. It's 12%. And again, while you punch that in, I will just take the same note here. 9% of investment, 15% of which goes raised by tranche B at a return of 12%. What's the outcome? What's the return? 3.24. Seems like straightforward computation now. Tranche C, same story. Different values. Of the same 90%, 15% still, 13% is the return. And what's our value? $3.51. Yeah, looks good. So total on. This is, however, only for A to C, and therefore we're looking for some balance, some difference. $18.63. Good. Now we got the difference, 3.17 already. Yeah. That's lease returns or your income. That was given up here as 21.8. So I think I'm describing it the other way around. That's from lease returns and our balance. Will this balance be paid to? Certificates. Equal that minus that 3.17. Good. So now that we have that out of the way, the only thing we didn't describe properly was the swap. We had it up here, not we applying the rate of the swap. Yeah, all right, fine. So we could leave that on that. So that's the end of our calculations for tonight, folks. So more than likely, we're going to have a shorter session. So as I mentioned, we want to now look at what can be said for this and see how we could cut some fluff out of the examiner's answers. All right, in terms of highlighting what can we do. So let's start with some discussion in the room first. So having done that, we've been asked to calculate the amount in dollars which each of the tranches can expect to receive from this arrangement. And also, in addition to that, which we just completed, we now want to discuss how the variability in rental income affects the returns from the securitization. So where's this variability coming from? No, I don't agree with Anita there. Where's this variability coming from? Try again. Well, it is the rental income that's varying, but what is the cause of this variability? Why are we even considering this? Where is this discussion going to stem from? Look at what Amar is saying there, ladies. So this paragraph just above the Islamic finance here, it is the finance director that is talking about how it affects the returns and how it affects the workings that we did. But without considering this, we would have been in a problem. So that this is where the 5% lower comes from, that we could use this 5% in our discussion, right? So, and of course, that would now jeopardize the return to the C-rated fixed rate loan note holders, right? So not only to the C-rated loan note holders, that would again, who else would that jeopardize? So if the C-rated loan note holders not being paid, who else wouldn't be paid? The certificate holders, right? So this is what we now need to discuss. How, or what do we think is this discussion going to take form? What form is this discussion going to take? So as we say down here, let's see if I could save here. Should be able to save. How that variability affects the returns from securitization. How are we going to discuss this? Well, we know it's 5% lower. Any ideas? That's a whole 5%. %5 lower than 21.8. That's right. So remember the 21.8 is a net after our service charge. So we should lower the 22 first and then deduct the service charge. Let's see where that gets us. Right? So let's see what Anita did there. 0.95 times the 21.8, 20.71. Yeah. So I think we should still look at the 20.7. Yeah, but that's from directly reducing the 21.8. So we should start with the 22. Take the 22 and find the 95% of that. What do we get now? So that should be our starting point. And anybody? 95% of the 22. So let's go with this discussion. 20.9, and from the 20.9, then let's your 0.2 from that, and that'll get us to the 20.7 that Amara has, right? So let's just take a quick note of that before we switch to the examiner's answers. So discussion, see, get answers. But we're going to start off with the 5% reduction of income, which would be 95%. times the 200 million. That would get us to the 20.9 million. And then less admin fee, 0.2. This is where we are at with 20.7 million. Good. So if we are there, how much is that difference? That was 22 or 21.8 minus 20.7. That's a drop of 1.1 million. So we had a whole 3.17. Let's just take note of that before we switch. Compared to original 21.8. Original 21.8. A difference of only 1.1 million. So are the C rated tranche in any risk? No, so they don't seem to be at risk from a cash flow point of view. All right. So let's switch to the examiner's answers now. Well, the kit answers, which are very close to the examiner's answers. All right. Hold on. So let's go back to that for Stacy. So we're saying here that the original was 21.8. And out of that 21.8, we were paying out 11.88 to the A tranche A, 3.24 to tranche B, 3.51 to tranche C, and we would have remained with an entire 3.17. Now, if we reduce the earnings to 20.9, lease income reduction, yeah, that's the income we're talking about. So this up here, our earnings. So definitely, this is what we computed as reduced value, right? And how are we reducing it? So this is what we redid down here. We started by taking 95% of the 200. Oh, I see your point. We're supposed to find the 11%. Aha. So yeah, we didn't do something here. 9% of the 22. Yes, sorry. Oh, I could have just included that there. So yeah, that's where my working went a little bit off. So that's 22 million there. That will get you to the 20.9. Yeah, that's what we did. So we took the earnings and reduced it by 5%. Yeah. All right, so thank you for pointing that out, Stacy. Good. So yeah, then we went comparing that to say that while you had a whole 3.17 to pay, you could easily reduce that 3.17 by 1.1, and you still have enough to pay everybody, including payment to the certificate holders, right? Now, let's see how that, now again, we didn't finalize it here. Let me just make a little statement for that. Thus, there will be enough earnings to pay A to C tranche holders or tranches, and the amount here would now be 3.17. minus 1.1. What's that get us? $2.07 million. Thank you, Amar. To the certificate holders. Now, let's just go back. Before we switch to the examiner's answer again, or the kit answer, what were we really asked to discuss? Discuss how the variability in rental income affects the return from securitization. So, is this variability stuck to a decision only on that 5%? What did the director say? Finance director, his prediction is over optimistic, believes that it is most likely the total on-levy rental income will be lower than in an executive. So yeah, so that's his total prediction. He didn't say it would have been at least 5% or anything like that. So the only other logical thing we could do here is to, let's say, how much or what percentage fall will risk the repayment to tranche C. All right, just give me 1 second here. Right, so I am back. Right, so we're trying to find out what percentage fall now would therefore create that risk of non-repayment to tranche C. So can we do a little bit of a something? They will need to lose 3.17, wouldn't they? 3.17 from 3.17. Now we have taken that from the 0.2, so we should account for the 0.2 as well. So 3.17, 3.17. So they'll have to lose that, and they could still pay tranche C. And 3.17, yeah, I guess we could use the 3.17 itself. 3.17 out of the total earnings of 22. And times that by 100 to get you that percentage. What's that gonna get us? $14.4. Right? So they'll need to lose 14.4%. Well, anything above 14.4 would then put above 14.4 reduction in earnings will put tranche C at risk. Right? So we have that discussion on the variability in terms of what the finance director said. It's not really turning out to be true. Okay. So anything else you think we can say about that? So remember, it's a discussion. You want to now look for both pros and cons. What's the obvious opposite side scenario? Come on. What were we discussing here? We were discussing, or we were supposed to be discussing, variability. But what did we discuss so far? Let's start with Amar's second comment there. All property not being leased, that's not really variability there. I'm more leaning along the lines of what Anita is saying. So if it is not reducing by 5, we already said it could reduce by 14.4, and then we'll be in problem. So what else are you indicating there, Anita? That's the line I'm looking at. So here's our 10-minute warning again. So we'll be moving into our third session after this 10 minutes is up. So we should definitely finish off A within the 10 minutes. Give me another example, Anita. If it's not reduced by 5, what's the opposite thing we could be looking at? Which would still be variability. Increase, excellent. So it doesn't, again, has to be by 5. It could be increased by anything. So the idea is the finance director is pessimistic about not getting those values and values reducing, but with the variability of everything, rather than go down, things can actually turn the other way. And you could also have things going up. So that's exactly what we can be using to complete this discussion. Right, so at this point, let me stop this share, and then I would switch the sharing to the kit answers, which I know everybody has, but that will help us now close off here, as well as look for fluff in this answer. So screen share, and where is my stuff? Here it is, the kit. And I am now sharing the kit answer. So just, can I see by a quick type of yes in the chat box that everybody could see the kit answer now, which I'm just resizing a bit. Yes, great. So let me try and pull this size a little more along here. And then I could probably just increase it from somewhere here. 25, right, that should look better. So, oops, zooming too fast. Right, this is the question there, which we all have the question. How the variability in rental income would affect the return. So flashing down to the answers would be up here, current situation, that's question 3. Question 4, let's just take a little quick look at the marking scheme. Calculation of the receivable, the loan note, impact of the swap, calculation of interest on the different tranches, estimating the subordinate certificates, comment on the sensitivity. So that's where we are. We're looking for the 3 marks. So once you were able to get to grips with what was inflows, what was outflows, and what we were really trying to do with this question, I hope people appreciate it's quite straightforward. All right. It might sound a bit strange. It may not have been something that you would have seen before, but very, very doable. Once you could sit in the exam and use your thought processes to try and sort out what the heck are they asking you, right? And they clearly ask for the payments. So to use the little corners they gave you. 18, all right, let's deal with this. The holders of certificates are expected to receive 3.17 million on 18 million, giving them that return of the 17.6, right? So the 18 should be coming from the level of capital. So if we look, oops, that's zooming too fast. Sorry about that. Let me get back to that page. Yeah, this 18 is coming from up here. I don't have a good pen in this section. So can we see where my mouse pointer is swinging around the 27? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we've seen that mouse pointer, right? So look at what that's calculating. So that little calculation, we didn't use that as a sub-calculation, but it's useful in indicating this 18 that they're looking at. This is now the 90% of the 200 million. So the 90% of the 200 million, 0.9 times the 200 is the 180, right? And of that, the remaining 10%, so 60% of 180 is the cash raised by the loan notes, 108. 15% of that 180, 27 million was raised by tranche B. 15% of the 180 again, 27 million was raised by the tranche B. And yes, this is doing a subtraction, but I was just going to say that 10% of the 180 is again the remaining that went, which is not in this section here. 10% of the 180, as we know from the question, is what was raised from the certificates, and 10% of 180 is 18. Yeah, Anita? So the idea, what they're saying is they are having raised that 180, or having contributed that 18, sorry, not 180, having contributed that 18, what are they getting back? They're getting back the 3.17 every year for having given 180. Yeah, so they're just rephrasing it that way. So they're receiving 3.17 for the 18 that they lent the company, and their rate of return. So they're using fancy calculations here. I would call all of this fluff. Why do we need to calculate a rate of return, right? So fluff here, rate of return. Oops, I was supposed to get my highlighter on. Highlighter, right. So I will highlight the fluff. I think I should have been doing that the other way around, but that's the best tool I could use here. I don't see that being necessary. We could have spoken in terms of cash flow terms, which is how we dealt with part A, and use cash flow terms to drive this discussion. All right, so back to here. If the cash flows were 5% lower, we did that. The annual revenue will fall to that. So we did that computation. So that's, well, that's not fluff, but that's good. Using the balance available to the subordinate certificates to 2.07. I think we calculated that as well. Yes, no? Let me just flash back here. To, yeah, 2.07, we had that. And yeah, just given the return, I am not going with that. Don't stress yourself out with that. We already had a good discussion in terms of it was not causing problems for the C tranche, which is below the returns offered by the B and C rate loans. Well, we know it's a little bit of money. Calculating it as a percent to me is not making the point any better. So I would leave all of that out. The point at which the holders of the certificates will receive nothing, and below which the C-rated loan notes will receive their, will not receive their full income. That's exactly what we did. And that came up today, 14.4% that we found. And again, not bothering with the rate of return. Right? Everybody okay at this stage? So that's where they ended their discussion. And they didn't even include the concept that it's stuff which is variable. Everything is variable as it is all estimates, right? And if we throw that line in, I mean, we're securing our 3 marks there. Right? So, yes, our discussion, in other words, well, notice I didn't highlight everything, but we are taking from their discussion and we are aligning it with what we just wrote, right? And we're saying 2/3 of what they wrote is exactly what we wrote. No, we didn't highlight everything. No. Let's go back there. So in this highlighted part, my chart is giving a little bit of trouble to move, right? In this highlighted part, it's only 1/3. Look at those lines, Anita. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. And out of 6 lines, I basically highlighted 1 line and a half. So no, we did not highlight everything. We highlighted about 1/3 of the things. Yeah, but basically, yes, my explanation did cover exactly what I did not highlight here. So not a problem. Yeah, we can go with that. Thank you very much for that compliment, Anita. But we need to transfer that into your comments in the exam, right? So not a problem. Not a problem. Let's go forward. Let's see how we could cut off fluff from this part B. All right. So back to the question, part B. I don't think flip